Welcome back everyone to Max Easy Lessons. Today it's The Day the World Almost Came to an End by Crayton. I do hope you enjoy this one. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping in. Don't forget to hit that red button and your bell notification so that you will be connected and that you will be aware of whatever uploads are coming. If you are returning to my channel though, thank you so much for always being here. I do appreciate the fact that you have stayed connected to the channel. Now, let's get straight into this short story. Crayton. She presents the themes of innocence, of freedom, of religion, of fear, of insecurities, of connection, and also of independence. We find that the story is told from the first person, and even though the character is not really named, we see that it's a memory piece as well. And after reading the story, we also realize as the reader that Crayton here is definitely exploring the theme of innocence, how a child responds to things that are happening in the world. We also see that there is a sense that the narrator believes that whatever Rena has told her about the world coming to an end is true. Because of her innocence, she believes that this is the truth. Now, along with this, we find that the teachings of the church also has an influence on the innocence of the child and the beliefs of the child. And because of the church, because of the beliefs of the church that she has been taught, the narrator has been taught, we realize that she takes what Rena says to be true. Now, this is important because we understand that the narrator is crossed between the line of being naive with the teachings of her church that persuades her to believe whatever it says, and also the innocence of a child who doesn't truly understand what the world is about. No, we take this into consideration that the narrator is only 12 years old when she is told that the world is coming to an end. Now, we are also aware as we read the story that it might be that Crayton, the author, the writer, is suggesting that religion can have different influences on an individual. For a child, what is suggested is that there is a negative influence on the child in particular, because the church here in this case would be presenting some amount of fear in the child that the world will come to an end at a particular time. Do we know when the world is coming to an end? Not necessarily. But the teachings of the church is often misinterpreted by many people, and especially a child. We see the narrator's vision of hell come directly from what she has also learned from the church. Now, while an adult may see these teachings or understand these teachings from a different level, the perspective of the child is often different. And because of the innocence of the child and of the fact that the child has not been exposed too much to other things as a 12-year-old, then we understand then that whatever Rena told her would have been the truth in her mind to an extent. However, her interpretation of those of the individuals teaching the narrator who has taught her about the church, the narrator about the church, may not necessarily be correct because of her interpretation, because of her nativity, and also because of her innocence. Now, it is also interesting that despite the narrator's belief that the world is going to end eventually, she still understands that she will continue to be a sinner in many ways. Yes, this is important for us as the readers, as we understand from this that even though the church teaches the narrator that, there is redemption and that she is free to be somewhat independent and to enjoy her life, she understands that her choice may not necessarily be that of what the church expects of her. No, the narrator does not intend to allow those strict rules of the church to prevent her from having her freedom to sin. Even though these sins that the narrator feels she has committed are not necessarily anything that would have broken the commandments. Yes, they are fairly innocent, but in the mind of a child, a sin is going to be a sin if it goes against the beliefs of everybody else. And so the sins of the narrator that she feels she has committed are basically innocent and childish actions. But it isn't anything strict that if the world were to come to an end, she would meet a sad fate. The narrator's father, we must understand, is important in the story because as a Christian, it is his actions that reassures the narrator as well. As a father, his thoughts, his words, the way he relates to what has happened, it also reassures the narrator. Though at first, he gives her some honest truth. And this frightens her, yes. And again, we see that the narrator's imagination goes off on a tangent again, yes. No. If anything, the narrator's father removes the insecurity that she may have in so many ways with his reassuring words. The fact is that the narrator has never seen or heard an airplane before, and this is how her innocence also projects itself. Because she has never heard of an airplane, she has never heard one in motion. It is what we see shaping her thoughts to think that the world is coming to an end. We understand at this point that it is symbolic. The whole airplane is symbolic of the innocence of the narrator in so many ways. Now, it is also important to understand that the narrator depends largely on her father for reassurance of what the world is about, what is going to happen in the world. And in many ways, in many cases, we can understand that there is a strong parental and child bond that exists between the father and his daughter. Because of the fact that the child is willing to base her beliefs and her life on what her father says, we definitely cannot avoid the fact that this is a very strong relationship. The father is someone that the child respects, and she understands that her father is going to tell her the truth about what she needs to know. Now here, Crayton brings in a contrast. We have to guess in many ways as to how the child feels about her mother. I mean, we recognize that she leans towards her father for the reassurance and not her mother about whether the world was coming to an end or not. Now, one may question what Crayton does here, but the whole idea is that she is probably making a connection. She wants us to understand that there is a strong bond between a father and a daughter, irrespective of what goes on in our social circle. In this case, Crayton wants us to explore the fact that there is a very strong bond between the father and the daughter. This bond is generally what you find in a mother-daughter relationship. And here is where there is the contrast. It's not the mother that the daughter leans to for reassurance, but it is her father. And so there is a sense that not only does the narrator respect her father, and not only does she value his opinion, but she also trusts him on a high level. Now, this is probably held by the fact that the narrator's father is the deacon in the church. And so his word is an authority to many people, and therefore it becomes an authority to her. And so she trusts his opinion even more. Now, we find that the narrator is afraid in many ways of her father, but we also recognize that through her fears comes her respect, and because of his ability to calm her anxiety. Something that probably we don't know for sure, but something that her mother would not have been able to do. No, there is also symbolism here in the fact that the narrator is in the dark when she listens to the airplane. And of course, Crayton is probably putting this in perspective for us because the darkness in the narrator's room, it heightens the fears of the narrator. And so we often associate fears with darkness. She cannot see anything. The narrator cannot see anything. And so she has only her imagination. And her imagination takes her to the darkest possible explanation as to what is going on. The fact that she's hearing that airplane and that the world is coming to an end. Now, when we get to the end of the story, it is very interesting as the narrator appears to reconnect somehow with the real world. When she looks around her, she's in the light now. She's no longer in the darkness. And her explanation that she gets from her father puts her also into this light. And we see that everything around her becomes beautiful. The fear that she had before, all of that fear is gone. And this all comes from the fact that her father reassures her that the world was really not coming to an end, as Rena would have suggested. If anything, we get the feeling that the narrator becomes free once more. And the fact that she becomes free means that she can continue to live her life as she wants to. And she doesn't have to worry about that world coming to an end. And she doesn't have to worry about the sins that she has supposedly committed. Now, the independence that we see of the narrator here comes from the fact that she has an ability or a need to sin. And so she can return to that which gives her her freedom. No longer does she have to worry about what is going to happen to the world. Now, where we once saw that the narrator was concerned about the world ending, all we see now is that she has become even more independent. She has become free to do whatever she wants to do. In many ways, we could say that Crayton is suggesting that children should not be bound by the strict rules of the society as such, but instead children should actually be taught, to be free, to live their lives without even thinking about the remote possibilities of the bad things that will happen because of what the church is teaching. Now, when we think about what the church teaches about the end of the world, it can be a lot for adults even to bear, and for a child to have to worry about that. I believe right here that Crayton is trying to show us that we should allow children not to be influenced by the negative teachings of the church, and negative in quotation marks here, but to allow children to understand that there are things that will happen, but that they still are allowed to live freely. Childhood only comes once, yes, and therefore each child should be allowed that innocence, that whole innocent idea of getting out there, making mistakes, and not see their mistakes as sins. And there will be time enough when a child can become older, when a child becomes an adult, and when that child has to take on the responsibility of distinguishing between being a sinner and being a Christian. But for the most part, Crayton brings us to the idea that a child is innocent and that a child should be allowed to live with that innocence and that freedom to just live. Thanks so much for watching.